this is a tryout. This is a showcase for Donovan Mitchell. McDonald's All-America game for Donovan Mitchell for what next team that he's
for when the
gonna
Heat trade
to.
Jimmy Butler and then
or
let's
whoever.
Because that was something that I've been saying.
Yeah,
have I not been saying it? I mean, I did. To be fair, I did hear it in January. I can tell you exactly what I heard now because I think I've only said this on Patreon episodes. Yeah. But what I can tell you is that I heard that Jimmy Butler and the Heat were not on the best of terms due to the fact that he was load managing a lot. Like that was what it came down to. And they were like, this is the third straight season. You're up for an extension this offseason. We're in the play-in again. And you not playing, because of whatever knee issue that you have and consistently taking off nights, whether you're playing or not playing, it has been an issue for, what we don't want to be in the play-in. Like it's kind of like it is a bit of oil and water in terms of if your whole culture thing is like, we play hard, we go hard every night. And then your best player is missing 25, 30 games a year with half the time it says injury management on there. I can understand why they would be a little bit frustrated with him. Having said that, a lot of their relevance has been Spo and Jimmy Merchants over the last few years. And I think they're testing fate a little bit with Pat Riley coming out and basically saying that he wants Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero dead for fucking missing games when, like, come on, dude. Like, he went full boomer in that press conference. I respect it. I respect that he just fucking set shit to fire. But I'm like, you got to be, come on. You have not done a very good job building this team, if I'm being completely honest. I think that Spo and Jimmy and Bam have maximized a lot of what this roster is and covered up the flaws of this front office, to be honest with you.
I think, honestly, I put a lot of the credit on Spo. I know the Celtics destroyed the Heat without Jimmy. They acquitted themselves in most of that series. They were just fucking overmatched. Like if this Celtics team had played like that last year, they beat that last year's Heat squad in like 4. Like it's, I don't know. I think it's an interesting case study to see if Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler was made in the bubble. There was a lot of myth making, and he was awesome in the bubble. I don't want to take away from that. Quietly, Jimmy Butler ever since then has been like pretty normal. He's been like a pretty normal average.
He was great in the Bucks series.
The first round one where Giannis got hurt. Just saying.
Giannis played the last 2 games, and Jimmy was awesome.
Yeah, okay. I get it. Sure.
He never tried to guard Jimmy. I'm not saying that is the best defensive strategy. I actually understand why he doesn't guard the best player on the other team.
Yeah,
but
because he's a steals merchant. Yeah. I'm very excited to see Jimmy Butler have to go play in Cleveland or wherever next year. Let's see, Jimmy. Prove me wrong. I think you're a fraud and a Spo merchant, so prove me wrong.
I'm not defending Jimmy Butler until he puts on a Philadelphia 76ers jersey again, to be honest with you.
The podcast is going to be rough next year when he's on the Sixers.
It is. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough if we trade for him. I said I can see it coming from a mile away that Sam's going to say Jimmy Butler will nuke the team because he'll be the 3rd best player on the team. So not only is he not getting attention for being the best player on the team, but if things go sideways and he's the 3rd best player on the team, my God, that locker room has potential to really explode. But here's my thing. First off, I could talk myself into Adolf Hitler coming off the bench for the Philadelphia 76ers. Come on. Yeah. And in this case, I will. So
now who's got to clip what?
So someone said Tobias or Hitler. No comment. So anyway, all right. Jimmy, obviously the marriage with the Heat is done. Whether it's now or next offseason or whatever, it seems pretty obvious to me they ain't going to pay him. They're not maxing him the money that he wants, that he always re-ups. And that's why when I first heard these rumors back in like January or February, and I said them in the Discord, I believe them because every 2 years, Jimmy re-ups his contract and he gets his money. He's smart to do it. He's smart to get his money as he gets into his mid-30s, as he plays a little bit less, as he declines athletically. It is smart to lock up your money. And Miami is finally saying, you know what? We want to pivot. We want to build around Bam, and we want to build around this younger core that we have. So how can we acquire a player that fits better and will play more games than Jimmy Butler moving forward? And I've been saying I think it's going to be something like Jimmy Butler to a team, assets going to the Cavs or the Hawks or whoever is willing to send star, whatever, maybe the Pelicans if they want to trade Brandon Ingram to the, and then that player goes to the Miami Heat. So if it's Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, who knows? Someone's going to become available this offseason that's a little bit younger, that fits with Bam's timeline a little bit better. And they'll probably make a trade for that player. And, you know, knowing the Heat, it will probably work out great for them. And that player will either become, you know, Brandon Ingram will make all-star games again, or Donovan Mitchell will become an MVP candidate.
Trae on the Heat is hurting my soul, man. Like, fuck, that would be...
that would be ultra rat mode because he looks like a rat.
Yes. Riffs man calls him the stinky cheese man. And they can't put the stinky cheese man on the fucking thing. Oh God, that was, but Trae Bam pick and roll. Like, I don't know. You give Bam the space. They have real guys now. Like this Heat team, that whatever star is going to be stepping into is a better version of the Heat than anything Jimmy had to work with.
Yeah.
I think, I was really impressed.
Roster wise, I agree.
Yeah. Jaquez and Jovic were real guys that series. Bam kind of acquitted himself pretty well. He did not fucking miss a goddamn 16-footer. Like, it didn't matter, but like, he was fucking awesome in that series. Except when he tried to hurt Jason Tatum. Like they just have a lot of, even like Duncan Robinson, you know, is a good guy. And, you know, I think they have Terry Rozier. We'll see, you know, when he comes back, how that goes. But I think when they trade Tyler Hero or Jimmy for, you know, this star this offseason, I think the Heat are probably going to be back. I think they'll be like a 4 or 5 seed next year, depending on what caliber of star they get. So
the question for me is, can you hold on to the Jovic's, the Jaquez's, those guys in this trade? Because look, Jimmy's going to have value around the league. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's also burned a lot of bridges. And he has also probably has a specific destination in mind that he wants to go to.
New York.
And there will probably be 3 or 4 teams. Well, here's the thing. The clip that I played on the Patreon episode that we did last time, that made you look like your soul was leaving your body. You were so angry at it because he was trying to troll and he was not playing. And Riley said, if you're not playing, shut the fuck up, basically. Yeah.
Boomer.
He said, Tibbs, you want me, I don't want you. I thought it was originally going to be the Knicks. I thought that marriage made perfect sense. But with the Knicks playing as well as they are right now, I think that it's possible. And the Brunson-Jimmy fit is a bit redundant, I would say, just because like they're kind of similar players in terms of where they like to operate on the court, how the offense flows around them, even though they're massively different in size. But my thing is like I said, I don't think there are a few teams that will not be interested in trading for Jimmy at all. And I do think that if he became available, Daryl Morey would be one of the few GMs that would put real value on the table. He's been chasing Jimmy his whole career. Jimmy has a relationship with Joel. And if he was open to extending him, I think Jimmy might be open to the idea of reuniting, just based on the fact that there's 2 parts to this. One, Bernie Lee, his agent, basically put out there that this narrative that the Heat are pushing is bullshit and that Jimmy was genuinely hurt this year and that's why he didn't play. 2, the fact is that Barry Jackson, who is basically the Heat propaganda mouthpiece, has said on his Twitter that in Morey's press conference after the season, he said they're looking for Paul George, you know, he didn't say these players specifically, but Paul George, Jimmy Butler level wings that can play in the playoffs. And
won defensive player of the year, by the way.
That was obvious. All these awards are washed. We knew all these guys who they were going to win.
Yeah.
But another thing on Rudy's Hall of Fame thing, though, he's definitely making the Hall of Fame now.
Ant officially has more help than Tatum now. More accolades.
Jesus Christ.
And Ant has a super.
I'm not paying you this month anyway.
Calling my union rep, Parm. Parm, I need you to get in there.
But yeah, so
Sixth man of the year, defensive player of the year. What man? Ant is.
Why can't I mute your mic? Fuck.
Yes.
So anyway, so Barry Jackson basically tweeted yesterday and said the top 2 stories on ESPN about the Sixers the last few days is they want a wing and they want a guy who could play in the playoffs. And Barry Jackson, of course, took the leap to say, well, who's been the better playoff performer between Paul George and Jimmy Butler? The obvious answer is Jimmy Butler, even if some of that stuff is a little bit overrated. My big fear as a Sixers fan, and just from the outside perspective of this, is that they're going to have to end up overpaying for Jimmy Butler. And Daryl generally doesn't overpay in trades. But if it is for a star that his star likes and wants, and a guy that he's always coveted his whole career, he might be willing to overpay a little bit.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then my fear is that they have to trade 3 of their remaining 5 first-round picks they can trade to the Heat so that they can send it to another team for a star. And then they have to max him on top of that. And Jimmy is just not it's a very hard needle to thread with Jimmy's knee injury and Joel's knee injury and their age and availability concerns when it comes to the playoffs. What are the odds both of these guys are healthy? Even when they make these runs, Jimmy is usually out for a game or 2. Joel's always missing time around the playoffs. He's pushed through it this year, but the majority of his years, he's not available for the playoffs. And it's a really hard needle to thread when, if you went the Paul George route, which still is apparently their number one thing if he wants to come here, you can get depth along with him because you can trade your picks and use your space or guarantee Paul Reed's contract to acquire other role players that will make Paul George missing time a little bit more easy to stomach. Because if you trade for Jimmy Butler, you have to hit every veteran's minimum signing. You have to hope that Batum and Lowry want to come back for smaller deals and Oubre too. And then on top of that, you also have to hit on draft picks or find guys on, UDFAs like they did with Ricky Council last year, because you're really making the team thin. And I just think there's a chance I would welcome Jimmy back just because I think he's still a really good player and he fits kind of exactly what the Sixers need between Maxey and Embiid. But it is really hard when you're considering the fact that the bottom could really fall out with this. Like Joel and Jimmy miss a month each, and then it's Maxey and a bunch of fucking scrubs, and you're potentially falling into the play-in like you did this year. So that's it. That's my whole take on it. I would be fine with it, but there's definitely some concerns, and and everyone keeps saying, oh, Jimmy can't shoot. I don't really care about that. Joel will shoot more if Jimmy comes back, and Joel needs to shoot more anyway. Take some fucking strain off your body, become more of a 3-point shooter, and Maxey's ability to space the floor and run all around makes it so that I think you could play one guy that isn't a shooter.
Daryl would build it. Daryl has Tobias coming off the books gives Daryl a lot more wiggle room for, they wouldn't have like a ton of cap space, but Daryl would have like wiggle room to like fill
a
out
little bit. Paul George
more.
And Jimmy Butler are basically the same cap hit, but you get Paul George for free, so you can use your picks on other guys.
Is Jimmy Butler that high? I thought Jimmy Butler's would come in like kind of under what you would have to give Paul George, just because it's not. You would pay more in the long run, I think, just because it's you'd have to extend him off of his current contract, but
sure. I'll pull up his contract right now. Next year, 2024, 2025, he makes $48.7 million.
That's kind of cheap. That's kind of cheap for a max guy. Like
it's almost the same as the first year of Paul George's contract, though.
Is that true? Oh, I guess because it's not bird rights. That's right. Never mind. I forgot about that.
It's almost about the same. But like I said, the difference is that you have to give up value to get Jimmy, and you get Paul George for free, which is why I would still prefer the Paul George and depth route potential, because you have to nail every single move if you trade for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's the better player when healthy, and I think that honestly the fit with him and Maxey and Embiid is good. But
just what you said though. I mean, we saw Maxey's awesome. He can't buoy the team in the regular season, and that would be my concern when, because I think Embiid is probably going to miss some time and Jimmy is going to miss some time, and that's just, you leave yourself open to exactly what happened this year, where your team is pretty good, but you just end up with a dog shit matchup because you were hurt, so
yeah. And I think we're seeing the importance of that now. Like, look, we can talk about the regular season not mattering all we want. Yeah. There still has not been a team that wasn't a top 3 team in the regular season to win the NBA Finals since the Hakeem Rockets in the 90s. Yeah. And they were coming off a title and got Clyde Drexler at the deadline. Like, history says, yes, if you want to make a conference finals run, if you want to make it to the final, sure. History still says if you want to win the championship, you have to be a top 3 or 4 seed, really top 3 seed. The Warriors and the recent Bucks team were the exception to this rule that you weren't a top 2 seed even. So I'm just saying, we need to care a little bit more about the regular season is all I'm saying. I think that, like you said, getting these Mickey Mouse layup matchups is important if you want to make a long run, especially if you have a player. If your best player is Joel Embiid and you want to play as little playoff games as possible, it's probably better to care a little bit about the regular season and value depth in the regular season, which is why I'd still Paul George is number 1 for me, but I would be fine with Jimmy Butler or another player in his realm if the price was right.